You can see a glimpse of nature's triumph every time you hear a girl say, "Yay, he's a great guy. I mean, he is nice. He makes me laugh. We have a really good time. I'm just not attracted to him." That's Mother Nature slapping a guy with no personal power into the oblivion called friend zone. The thing is, in order to truly understand reality, you first have to understand why you exist. Life is an intelligent force that has a direction of flow. It moves towards more complex expressions of itself. We are thus biological agents of sorts in a symbiotic relationship with nature, allowing life to express and experience itself through us. As you can tell, it's a highly sophisticated process and clearly very important to nature. Therefore, to ensure its functionality, nature, by means of adaptive evolution, has hardwired a set of algorithms in our heads. We call them instincts. There is an individual version and a collective version of hardwiring. Here is how the mating game looks like on the surface. 1. A man is predisposed to be aroused by perceived beauty. Men, more often than not, respond instinctively to visual stimuli. Please note the use of the word perceived. See, a beautiful woman is more or less considered beautiful no matter where in the world she is at. The collective male hardwiring in the matters of judging beauty relies on physical symmetry and sharpness of features along with the hip-to-waist ratio of the female. This idea, however, has been varied by humans to a great extent throughout history. For example, we might not include a big nose in our idea of a beautiful face, but during the era of the Great Roman Empire, women with a bigger nose were considered a prized possession and thus were highly sought after for sex. Symmetry represents good genetic material. Broad hips represent a healthy childbearing capability. Men are thus hardwired to be with a mate of the best genetic disposition available at the time of mating. Mating is no fun without arousal. This is why visual stimulus creates arousal in men quite a bit. Not that women aren't aroused by visual stimuli. It just isn't right up there in the list of turn-ons that nature handed over to women. These instincts are highly developed in males. A man can spot a shapely rear of a woman from a mile away. We have a sort of homing mechanism built inside our brains. No matter how mentally occupied the male mind is, it puts everything into the background at the sight of a beautiful woman. Everything stops for a second. Now you know why. 2. A woman is predisposed to be aroused by perceived power. I don't have enough words to express their importance for reasons I assure you most people can't possibly comprehend. But I'll stick to the biological rationale. Women carry and nourish the child that carries the genetic material of its parents in an absolutely unique template. Women are thus the agent that carries life and thus facilitate the expansion of life. Now, like I mentioned earlier, nature loves expansion. The newborn is a symbol of expansion, refining the gene pool with each generation, expanding and evolving life. The safety of the newborn is thus paramount to nature. We don't call it Mother Nature for no reason. This is why the female is hardwired to find the strongest and most healthy male to mate with in order to ensure her safety and that of the newborn. Please pay attention to the use of the word perceived once again, because in this context it holds greater importance. You see, power is a very broad term. In the social context, it can be loosely translated as the ability to get things done. Now that leaves one in with a number of possibilities, and this is where it gets interesting. You might think that money can get things done. Does that mean every rich man who ever lived has been successful with women? No. Influence can get things done. Does that mean that every influential person has been a playboy? You guessed it. No. Fame can get things through a combination of money and influence. And yet Johnny Depp just got dumped and served with a restraining order. So what is the deal here? Personal power. Women too have elaborate sensory processes in place that have evolved to become extremely efficient over the last billion years or so. They can tell an insecure, out of balance male from a mile away irrespective of his bank balance, fame, or influence. On the other hand, women can also tell if you are a promising mate very effectively based on observations of your behavior, your body language, facial micro-expressions, tone of voice, etc. All of this calculation takes place subconsciously, and most women have no control over it. If a guy isn't happening, he just isn't happening. An evolutionary trait. Women are highly intuitive when it comes to gauging prospect mates, way more selective than men. In other words, if you can create a perception of power about yourself, even though you are not associated with money or fame or influence, a woman can sense the promise in you. You will automatically have an evolutionary advantage over the chump driving his daddy's Ferrari. Duty and purpose can be associated with power. I'm sure you know that a lot of women grow weak in the knees at the sight of a man in a uniform. But what about the douchebag who keeps thrashing his girlfriend after repeatedly cheating on her? How does he get to keep a girlfriend while Mr. Nice Guy is blaming his past life karma for serving time in friend zone? What is going on? Apart from the fact that sometimes the attraction mechanism in women might be triggered by characteristics typical of bad boys, I would like to draw your attention to the following events that have somewhat altered the scheme of things. 1. The media has significantly tampered with the fine masculine-feminine balance. Most men end up being raised under the impression that the ultimate aim of being with a woman is to have sex with her. I don't see the purpose of a question like this otherwise. 2. Women call the shots in short-term sexual alliances but concede the balance of power to men when it comes to marriage. As far as the marriage dynamic is concerned, the ball lies in the man's court. 3. The concept of men battling it out for a suitable mate has been replaced by significantly softer approaches. At least theoretically. We have been dictated a new set of preferences that don't work in harmony with the ways of nature. Needless to say, nature always wins. 4. Contraceptive pills, birth control pills gave the woman a chance to enjoy all the goodies of sex minus the stress of unwanted pregnancy, and thus took the best mate theory temporarily out of the equation. Lovely breakthrough in the sexual dynamics, but it made everything in the mating game a lot easier and way less fun. Most men have stopped working on developing personal power. Personal development is currently a skill only a few strive to hone. And since one thing leads to another, women have forgotten the immense depth and value of their being, that they are the choosers in the mating game. Personal power, that's your answer. It's a state of being experienced by a man who is in harmony with himself and his surroundings. It's the only real form of power that exists. All the perceived power in the world can be commanded by someone with personal power.